Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today is the 4th of July. For the United States, it's our Independence Day, but today is also the birthday of Koko the gorilla. Koko is quite easily the most famous gorilla in the world. As a child, I remember seeing Koko on TV and learning about her in school. When Koko died, it broke my heart. Her gentleness and curiosity, her willingness to learn, and her abilities gave us so much insight into animal sentience. The passing of Koko is especially tragic, not only for how much joy she brought us, but because for her species, the western lowland gorilla, was classified as critically endangered as of 2016. Koko died in 2018, just weeks before her 47th birthday. Koko has gained many fans who love and respect her, and her legacy will continue to benefit her species and hopefully all of humanity. Here are some facts to remember Koko the amazing gorilla by and make you love her even more. Koko was born on July 4th, 1971 at the San Francisco Zoo and was moved to Stanford 2 years later, where the nonprofit organization called the Gorilla Foundation was established to protect and learn from gorillas. Koko struck the world and changed it forever with her advanced use of sign language. She was taught a variation of American Sign Language by her caregivers and researchers that they called Gorilla Sign Language. Koko could sign over 1,000 different words, which indicated advanced cognitive development for a non-human animal. Koko could reportedly reference objects through sign language that were not physically present with her. This may not sound very impressive, but it's actually a complex skill called displacement that is exceedingly rare in any other animals than humans. Koko passed the self-recognition mirror test. You may have heard of the mirror self-recognition test in your first year psychology class because it is an important part of human children's developmental cycle. The test determines whether the child has developed self-awareness and can usually be passed when a child is about 18 months old. Animals have also been put through this test, but only a couple have passed, including Koko. In the test, the animal is marked on their body in an area that can't be seen without a mirror. The animal passes the test if they check out the mark on their own body with the understanding that the mirror is only a reflection of themselves and not another animal. Koko knew her worth. Queen was one of the first words Koko signed to describe herself. According to Penny, her primary caregiver, Koko knew she was special because of all the attention she got from important people and the media. Koko's legacy is honored through the Gorilla Foundation. They've continued their conservation of gorillas in Africa and their Great Ape Sanctuary. They also developed an app featuring Koko that helps both children and gorillas learn sign language. Koko didn't let anything stop her from communicating. Koko invented new words when needed. For example, when she wanted to communicate the word for ring, which she hadn't learned, she signed the words for bracelet and finger to reference a bracelet that goes on your finger. Gorillas make vocalizations like purrs, grunts, and hoots to express their emotions. Koko was able to create new vocalizations unique to her, so the Gorilla Foundation is actively researching this phenomenon. It's hard to imagine an animal with a sense of humor, but Koko's researchers said she definitely had one. She could use her sign language to make fun of other people, suggesting she had a theory of other minds, another thing rarely seen outside of humanity. She was also able to discuss the language itself, or in other words, meta-language. Koko was quite childlike and would often carry a security blanket whenever she was in new locations. Not everyone loved Koko. She had critics too. Skeptics said that she only memorized words to please her owners and get rewards, not because she actually wanted to communicate or understand their meanings. These critics also like to point out the lack of scientific papers published about Koko compared to the frequent pop articles that drew the public's attention to her. Koko loved babies and cats, so of course, she asked her caregivers for a pet kitten, just like any girl would. The researchers complied and gave her a stuffed kitty for Christmas. Koko was not fooled. She boycotted that counterfeit kitty and signed the word sad over and over until they gave her a real-life kitten. Eventually, Koko was allowed to pick her pet kitten from a full litter and named her chosen cat All Ball. The researchers say Koko cared for All Ball as if it was her own baby. Koko was on the front cover of National Geographic twice in her lifetime. The first time was a mirror selfie that she had taken, and the second was for a story about her and her pet cat, All Ball. Koko really knew how to win the people's hearts, selfies and kittens. Obviously, Koko would have been a TikTok sensation. Although Koko may not be able to communicate in any spoken languages, she can understand about 2,000 words in the English language, and she can keep up fairly well in a conversation. Koko was also a foodie. 3 of Koko's first words were more, food, and drink. Typical. Koko grew up with another ape named Michael, who lived with her at the Gorilla Foundation, and they were best friends. Koko helped teach him how to sign, but he only ever learned about half of what Koko knew. This is still quite impressive, and thanks to Koko, Michael was able to use sign language to communicate his first-hand account of his mother's death when she was killed by poachers. Through moments like this, these gorillas have really altered what we know about animals' abilities to grasp language, memories, and emotions. Koko had other family members before joining the Gorilla Foundation. Her mother and her father's names were Jacqueline and Bwana, respectively. She also had 2 brothers named Sunshine and Makubwa. Her more distant family of nieces and nephews are spread across different zoos in the U.S. When compared with a human, Koko could communicate at about the level of a 3-year-old. Most of her words were learned between the ages of 2 and 5. She never really understood or used appropriate grammar or syntax, though. Koko got to meet Mr. Rogers, and she knew him from watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. She recognized him immediately and then helped him take off his shoes, because that's what she watched him do on TV so often. Koko also got to meet comedian Robin Williams. The two tickled each other, and Koko also wore his glasses, and the two became buddies for life. Koko loved picture books and movies. She was particularly fond of The Three Little Kittens and Puss in Boots. She's a classic cat lady. Some of her favorite movies were Free Willy, Dr. Dolittle, Made in Manhattan, and Pretty Woman. I gotta say, I agree with her on Free Willy. It's a great movie. Koko would sometimes cry, just like people do, at sad parts in movies. In the movie Tea with Mussolini, when the boy says goodbye to his family, Koko would turn away and sign things like mother, sad, trouble, and cry. And her eyes would get all watery, proving, perhaps, that gorillas can express empathy like humans. When her fur baby, All Ball, passed away, Koko mourned. Koko understood the passing of her kitten. Many years after her kitten's death, which the researchers considered Koko's own child, she would still sign the words sad and cry in mourning of her loss. The loss of Koko's friend Michael hit her very hard as well. She was so sad that she started eating less and stopped smiling. Not long after that was when Robin Williams visited her and made her smile, laugh, and play games again. Williams helped her healing process, so she was also understandably sad when she was told of Robin's passing as well. Koko always wanted a baby gorilla to raise before her death, and there was every indication that Koko would teach her baby the sign language that she knew. The Gorilla Foundation made it a goal of theirs to create a family between Koko, Nadume, and a baby gorilla, but it was never made a reality. Koko was taken care of by Francione Patterson, known as Penny. Penny took Koko under her wing to teach her sign language as a part of her PhD thesis. The San Francisco Zoo agreed to lend the gorilla to her as long as she made a 4-year-long commitment. She ended up staying with Koko for the entirety of the gorilla's life. Penny's work in interspecies communication is used as a tool to create deep, trusting relationships between people and animals. It also allows the animals to communicate their wants and needs more easily to their human caretakers. There have also been communication studies done with a chimpanzee named Washu, an orangutan named Chantek, and a bonobo named Konzi. Unlike Koko, however, there have not been many long-term studies with these animals. You could say that apes that can communicate with humans are an endangered species in themselves, considering the lack of studies and Koko's recent death. Koko and Michael expressed themselves through the medium of painting during their lives, and their best artworks are for sale at the Gorilla Foundation website. They titled the artworks themselves based on their contents. Some were abstract, and others were representational of things found in their environment. They didn't necessarily focus as hard or spend as much time creating their masterpieces as humans do, but they could acknowledge which paintings they thought were good and which were not by signing toilet at the ones they didn't like so much. Koko was also a musician. Koko learned how to play the recorder, which showed her wide mental capacity to learn new, intricate tasks and her ability to regulate her breathing in a complex manner. Before Koko, this was not thought to be in the range of Gorilla's abilities. In her life, Koko was fed 7 pounds of food daily, spread across 7 different meals. A lot of Koko's caregivers' days were spent preparing her food and feeding her. In the wild, gorillas spend 40 to 60% of their days finding, preparing, and eating food, and Koko's caregivers wanted her life to be similar. They even made up interesting ways for Koko to forage for her food. Gorillas' diets are plant-based, and Koko's was no exception. All of the gorillas at the Gorilla Foundation have diets matched to their own needs, and the food is mostly organic. I wonder where they get their protein from. Koko's favorite foods included stone fruits like peaches and plums, berries, plantains, and organically grown flowers like pansies, carnations, and roses. Koko's friend from the foundation, Ndume, didn't like flowers at all, but he would eat their leaves and was a big fan of kale, quinoa, and tempeh. So he'd make a great hipster today. The Gorilla Foundation says that the best way to help gorillas is to learn more about them and remember that all gorillas have the capacity within them to learn like Michael and Koko. They are intelligent, emotional, and gentle creatures, not some King Kong-like caricature of apes. In addition to interspecies communication, the Gorilla Foundation is also engaging people in gorilla conservation. They are teaching the world about Koko to inspire hunters not to illegally kill and sell apes in the wild and empathize with these beautiful creatures instead. They also take in orphaned apes and provide classroom lesson plans to teach about gorillas in schools. Grooming, climbing, problem solving, nesting, foraging, all a part of a gorilla's balanced lifestyle. The Gorilla Foundation has a program to make sure these gorillas in captivity get the same pleasures in life as a gorilla in the wild would. Although their enrichment program is a little more human, they are provided with cardboard boxes for nesting and lots of toys to play with like books, flashcards, boxes, paints, and movies. For Koko's birthdays, her supporters would send her presents and birthday cards that were mailed in as well as sent over the internet. Since today is Koko's birthday, I hope you'll check the link for the Gorilla Foundation and maybe install the app to learn sign language with Koko. She taught many of us how to laugh and smile, and we will have her research and cat videos for years to come. You can search for these videos on YouTube or see them on the Gorilla Foundation website. I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned something new about Koko. May she rest in peace, and happy 4th of July.